Hey, happy Thursday. We are back with another episode of Go FUD Yourself. Today is Kiara's favorite day, Crypto Arms Race, where we fly around the world and talk about many different things in many different jurisdictions. Today,
so many places. So many places. Well, we get to talk about Binance because Binance is going to be its own sovereign nation soon.
At this pace, they're going to be on an island of one.
We're going to talk about a few major players and where they are suddenly legal to operate, including Kraken, Coinbase, and Binance. And then we're going to talk about Switzerland. I went on a little bit of a Swiss dive last night just to see what was going on up in there and how neutral they continue or don't continue to be on what they're doing. And then we'll continue.
Did you take your utility knife?
And then we'll continue on to Liberland, which I'm really excited about.
That was like my best joke, I think, ever.
It was so good. I'm so glad that you made it here live.
I know.
I'm really stoked about Liberland. I didn't do a deep dive in Liberland. I feel like it's going to end up being another Friday episode at some point. But if you haven't heard of Liberland, you will love this concept.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind Liberland either. It's pretty cool. So we'll chat about it in a little bit. Quick reminder: we're a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern every day. We're here every bloody day. Every now and then we have some fun guests. Often more fun than you and I, which is cool because it keeps it interesting. And yeah, like, share, subscribe, help us out. Make sure we can get the word out there and spread the love with more people and hopefully keep people out of trouble as best we can. That's kind of the plan. All right, so we can play our fun little video here. And then we'll get freaking going.
Oh, you do like the new one? Maybe because you don't have to wear your gold chain.
What? Because what?
Because you don't have to go find your chain. Whenever we use the other one, it'll be when you have your chain on.
Here, I've got it. I'm still waiting for the piece. I ordered the RBL thing. Like forever.
Yeah, they gotta like forge it. They've gotta like mine the gold.
There's probably some child in China that has to build it or something.
Probably.
And then they have to paddle over in a canoe.
Yeah, across the ocean.
Yeah, in a canoe.
Yeah.
It's got to be
people employed.
Under 10 years old for sure. So anyway, okay. So where do you want to start?
We're going to start with Binance. So when you weren't here, I got to talk about Binance and the new CMO. Ooh. Actually, Bolin and I got to talk about the CMO, which is hilarious because both Bolin and I agreed that this is a great job for someone like Bolin or I, where we're highly risk adverse, or we're not risk adverse, and we're just willing to go for it. You know, she was like an employee at Binance, the CMO left, and she stepped up and she was like, yeah, I've got a strategy, I can do it. But we feel that she's being way too professional about it. That if we were going to be in that role, we'd be way more laissez-faire. We would just say a lot of dumb shit. Instead, she has some kind of strategy focusing on the low hierarchy within the organization. She's pandering to all of these different areas about how they're going to be the future of crypto. And so the most recent one is Turkey. She has come out and said, Rachel Conlon has come out and said that Istanbul is going to be the crypto hub of the future.
Yeah. I don't know if this is like by design or just random. But again, another one of those things that you're like, what?
It appears to be by design. This is the fourth city that she said that about in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I guess I was looking even a little more macro. Like, yeah, I just don't understand at all. Every day we have these things, and it doesn't make any sense, like strategically, why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, Turkey obviously has a lot of opportunity. It's a pretty incredible emerging market, I think, in a lot of ways, and they have a lot of reasons to want to pursue crypto. Obviously, the Turkish government hasn't always been the most responsible with inflation and all of these other things. And so I see why. Obviously, I think some of these emerging markets are going to be great markets. But, on one hand, where did Binance pull out of last week or the other day? Russia. And now like they're replacing that with Turkey,
so they are going to host Binance Blockchain Week in Istanbul. So what I think, genuinely, I think that they're going to all of these places, and they're just testing the sentiment, and they're going to run an event, and they're going to see how people respond, and then if it's good, maybe they'll come into compliance there. But
Cosmoverse is in Turkey next week too. So like, I mean, there are quite a few conferences that happen in Turkey, which is kind of interesting. It's really not the easiest to travel.
Turkey's crypto penetration rate is 7% higher than the global average of 5%. So Turkey's at 12%.
Yeah, they're doing okay. They're doing okay. But I mean, it's nowhere near what, the numbers we saw coming out of, I think it was Korea. Korea's numbers were pretty aggressive. Nigeria.
Yeah, they were wild.
A few others were pretty crazy. But
so what's interesting about this is that Binance loves Turkey, hates France. Binance has been operating in France, and their partnership with PaySafe ended this week. And basically what this means is they don't have a banking partner. But remember how they didn't have a banking partner, and then they had PaySafe as a partner for like 3 weeks, and that apparently hasn't gone well. So instead of having good news about it, they have suggested that if you have fiat held on Binance, that you convert that into other crypto, because they won't be able to support the fiat once the PaySafe deal is totally closed. So I don't know if that means a loss, or if that means you'd be waiting for the next fiat provider to join Binance, or what that looks like in France. I would probably just take my money off Binance, but not financial advice. So
yeah, they're going to have a heck of a time, I think, finding a regulated fiat payment.
In France, where they're regulating influencers. Yeah, I don't think it's there. I don't think it's there.
There's no way. Like, and I mean, I'm not sure about this PaySafe thing, if it was like a disagreement amongst Binance and PaySafe, or if it was more just they thought the deal was quite attractive, started working down that path, and regulators immediately were like, no thanks. That's what I assume happened. There's probably some politicking that's happening behind the scenes that we don't really know about, but nonetheless, this is another fairly major jurisdiction that is, starting to shut Binance out again. Now we're talking a lot of Europe, Germany, what was the other one? Russia, UK. They left, I think, Nigeria. There's tons of places. Canada, like the US is essentially non-existent. I don't get it.
But hey, maybe Turkey will be the win for them. Meanwhile, Coinbase is officially good to go in Spain. They've registered with the Bank of Spain for crypto services, coming into compliance with AML standards that MiCA put in place. Yeah.
So MiCA becomes relevant in 2024. It becomes effective 2024.
But people are already complying all over Europe.
Of course. Yeah. Like they're starting to comply, but it's mandatory compliance in 24. Yeah. And so, I mean, this makes sense. Spain is a fairly big market. They have decent crypto penetration in Spain also. So this, I don't mind this at all. I think this is going to be the first of many dominoes, I think, and Spain seems to be one of the jurisdictions that's willing to work with these larger partners. There's actually a couple that we'll talk about today, but personally, I think this is great. I mean, having Coinbase in a fairly large Western country in Europe, I think it's great. And so they can do custody, and I believe that their exchange is licensed also there, so they can meaningfully operate in Spain. And then because they abide by MiCA, according to the rules in Spain, it should be relatively quick to get approvals in other jurisdictions.
So it will almost give them euro to crypto trading in 27 EU states, which is what Kraken is doing too. Kraken just got onboarded to Spain. The same thing through the bank, exactly the same way that Coinbase did. But Kraken went an extra step and has also become compliant in Ireland.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the facts on that one. So, but they did something a little bit different Kraken did. So Coinbase did, as far as I understand, just Spain. But the way that Kraken did it is they got the EMI license from Ireland, which then does give them, in theory.
No, they had to do both. So
they need both of them for that? I didn't think the Coinbase one gave them the same.
So Coinbase only got the Spain one. So they aren't able to operate in Ireland. Whereas Kraken has their VASP, their virtual asset service provider from the Bank of Spain, which is the same as Coinbase. And then they also got their electronic money institution license from the Central Bank of Ireland. So the EMI, the electronic money institution license, lets them euro to crypto trade in 27 states. However, the VASP, which people are getting from Spain, will allow them to operate within the EU under AML, like across the EU board, once MiCA comes into place. So not yet, but in 2024.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, the EMI license the way I understand it is it's pretty similar to a money transmission license here, which is different in every state in the US. So something kind of similar, you have to have approvals in all the states for that license to be relevant. So, I mean, I think this just makes sense objectively, right. You know, like as regulation is coming, we're going to see the big players, you know, coming into compliance probably, you know, pretty quickly globally, I think, because they don't, you know, the risk exposure is pretty high. So to me, this is good. I think in a lot of ways, it's unfortunate that it's, you know, and this could just be the PR wires, but you know, it's a lot of large incumbents. There's not too many upstarts or small businesses that are getting license approvals yet, which hopefully we can see a bit of a hybrid over time, I guess. But I mean, we'll have to see. I think it's it's good to see some movement. It's good to see some approvals. And I think, you know, in a couple of years from now, hopefully this is all behind us and there's a path to compliance, which will be great.
Yeah, exciting. Okay, are you ready to hop, skip, and jump over to Switzerland?
Are we taking a train or a plane?
Maybe we can race. Trains, planes, and automobiles. You know, I once drove from Switzerland to Spain.
Really?
Yeah, it's a long drive because of the various speed limit changes as you go through many tiny villages. When I look at a map, I'm like, oh, I can go 140 and I'll get there in no time. And then in reality, it took like 3 days.
All right, we can talk about Hypotheker Bank. Let's do it.
Hypotheker Bank Lenzburg has joined the 6 Digital Exchange, which I guess is exciting.
So that, for context, we talked about this a while ago, but the 6 Digital Exchange is as far as I understand, the only approved exchange in Switzerland for digital assets. And you can become a member, and once you're a member, then of course you can participate. Which is kind of what they've done. It seems like a relatively small bank with 7 billion in assets under management, but that's only because we're naturally comparing it to like large multinationals. Like this is a specific Swiss bank focused on high net worth people. So to me, this is this is the type of adoption that we really want to see. We want to see that intersection of the old and the new. And you know, we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's still great things from TradFi, and there's incredible infrastructure and structures that we can build onto. But yeah, it's nice to see, you know, some evolution. And
so now, if you bank with Hypotheker Bank because they're a member of SDX, the members, like, I think it's that the retail users themselves can actually trade digital securities like bonds and equities. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's sort of similar for people that know. It's sort of similar to the way, it's sort of similar to the way that SROs work, self-regulatory organizations in America. So as an example, if I'm a member of the FINRA SRO, then somebody else who's also a member, we can trust each other's KYC, AML practices and so on, and their clients can come use my products without a bunch of friction, effectively. So this is somewhat similar. It's not exactly the same, of course. And again, I don't know all the details. I'm not an attorney, but yeah, more or less same idea. It's a huge efficiency upgrade, I think, for the users, because you're not necessarily asking the users to sign up for a new service and learn something completely fresh. I don't know the specifics on this, but I would assume there's going to be some sort of integration into Hypotheker Bank's normal dashboards, so they might not even feel like they're leaving Hypotheker Bank to transact. So all in all, I think this is a huge plus. It's a model I think we'll see a heck of a lot more of, but it's nice to see banks of that size starting to come on. I mean, it's just scratching the surface, I think, but we need some case studies for other banks to look at and be like, oh shit, we better get in on this.
There is a quote from Marianne Wildy, the CEO of Hypotheker Bank. I'm not going to read it aloud because honestly, it's a little bit table stakes, but we'll post it on Twitter. But the main gist of it is that this is how their bank is going to increase their presence in digital assets. So this also makes me wonder if everybody is in this kind of space is just trying to keep up so that when there's a CBDC or when there's a Binance, that they are still relevant.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's a bit of a land grab happening globally, right? Like you're seeing upstarts, newer companies trying to secure their spots, and you're going to see incumbents trying to at least maintain their market penetration currently. And so instead of hemorrhaging users to newer applications that can offer these services, a lot of them are trying to bring these services in-house as demand continues to increase. It's pretty logical. I think it makes sense, that these guys are starting to try to at least secure the largest demands from their current client base. And I talk about this a lot. Right now there's not a regulated environment where you don't have to go through this process and be able to maintain some of your value capture from these users. But you still have to do it. Otherwise, like, why would you send your users to a third party if you're not implicated in the economics? You're taking revenue generating users and saying, hey, we don't offer this thing, go over there, you can pay them. That kind of doesn't make sense. So that a lot of entities are trying to figure out which path they want to follow. Does it make more sense to find an ecosystem to participate in, or does it make more sense to try to build your own walled garden? And a few of them are trying to do the walled garden thing. I think Onyx is a JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Microsoft thing. That's going to be a walled garden. So we'll see. It's to me, this is good momentum. Kind of hopefully going into the next cycle. I think this will be the prevailing narrative. This cycle is going to be regulation and just compliance, and we'll see a whole host of fairly sophisticated protocols come in once regulation is clear.
Which is really kind of interesting thing is one side of the Swiss banking is that a bank is coming into digital assets, and another side of it is that a crypto company is also coming into Switzerland and complying with their really stringent AML as well. So we have KeyRock, which is from Belgium. They're a market maker. They're basically going to be offering OTC on 10 different fiat on and off ramps. Kind of exciting to see Switzerland getting two really different approaches, but meeting in the middle, right?
Yeah, I'd love to know how KeyRock raised $72 million. Considering most of us have never even heard of them.
The Swiss.
Yeah, like I can't even imagine what that valuation would have had to be, and how they tried to substantiate that, especially in a bear market. I mean, they must know someone somewhere. But I think this, again, we're going to see continuously more of this. We're going to see more of these kind of. First, we'll see the players like a lot of market makers and stuff that are kind of straddling trad CeFi DeFi a little bit, and they probably have a larger risk exposure than many other smaller participants, at least for the time being. Yep. And I mean, it's going to be a huge land grab. I think this is super smart. We know a lot of other market makers that are starting to pursue these types of options, because once it becomes clear that you have to act a certain way and you have to abide by certain rules, there's going to be a move to safety, flight to safety, so to speak, where we're all going to move to people that we know are compliant. Yep. And so this is smart. I think anybody that is thinking about this should probably continue to pursue some licensing and pursue compliance in short order. Otherwise, you're going to be pretty late to the party.
Absolutely.
So, it's good.
And just to really drive the point home that Switzerland is going all out and from all directions promoting Web3, is they recently had their Web3 festival, which was a pretty big deal. There were things that you would expect, like the Swiss NFT Association was there, and there were some Bitcoin art gifts, and some computer displays. I don't know what happens at these places. But what was really notable is that they saw venture capitalists from all over the world come to Swiss Web3 Fest, including Crypto Oasis, which is a Dubai.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think it was the inaugural one. I think it's the first one, right?
Cool.
But I mean, this is like every other conference, really. Like you try to get a good cross section as best you can of like art and culture. In this particular case, they had some green energy stuff that they were highlighting. They had Internet Computer Protocol, ICP. Infinity's project was a big participant there. So I mean, yeah, the enthusiasm. I can actually second this. I wasn't obviously at Crypto Oasis would have been fun, but I definitely wasn't there. But I mean, I've been to a couple conferences, a couple events in the last week, and another one today that I have to go to. And it is palpable that the change in enthusiasm and energy you can definitely feel it. And there's surprisingly a lot of discussion around RWAs, compliance, mainstream adoption, where the next wave of users is going to come from, building meaningful and predictable value into the assets in blockchain, because that's been something that's been a challenge and has been stunted due to regulation uncertainty. So all of this to say, I think this is great. It's good to see these conferences in many different countries. I personally like the smaller, more intimate style of conferences, because my goal is never to go and talk to 1,000 people. Right. Over the course of 2 days. Like, it's impossible. My goal generally is to make, just a handful, 3 or 4 meaningful connections, or re-engage with people I already knew, or whatever the case is. And so these smaller events, I feel, are a much more intimate setting. It's much more conducive to meaningful conversations. It's not all volume, And so this is great. I hope to see a heck of a lot more of this. On one hand. On the other hand, it's a challenge because the conference circuit continues to get more and more demanding. I literally
there's so many right now.
Yeah, I could be on the road 365 days a year, which is
God.
obviously not viable. But there's conferences all the freaking time, pretty much. I'm exaggerating the point, obviously, but there's probably not one all 365 days of the year, but there's quite a few. So I like to see.
You should run the first Christmas one. I don't know.
I think actually the last time I went to a conference near Christmas, I got COVID and stuck in New York.
Yeah, that's right.
So I missed Christmas. Forget that. No more Christmas conferences. But I'm looking forward to a day where we, in fact, have to curate our conference schedule, and have to really think about it. Because there's
very exciting.
2 or 3 options at every given time, and
I hope that people curate their conference schedule around where we're going to go.
Ideally, they build it around my availability, but we're maybe a couple of years away from that.
Okay, we're going to move away from Switzerland. They're doing great. Let's go check out something that's a little bit different. I really like this. So we already know that blockchain and IoT, especially hand in hand, are being used in things like agriculture and more industrial industries, but we don't see a lot of that translating down to the retail side. And so in Croatia, they are looking to overcome some really negative sentiment that came about because of the African swine fever outbreak in their pork. And they're actually selling utility NFTs where you purchase your pig NFT up front. And it's quite inexpensive. It's only 250 euros. And you'll get just over 100 kilograms of real pork meat. I think that's a poor translation because it sounds a little bit like milk. But the idea is that instead of you having a bond or buying a wine barrel or buying a whiskey cask or something like that, where you get it at the end, this is a shorter term. So it's only 900 days. It's only 3 years. You're essentially sponsoring an animal and pre-purchasing that animal. And that money allows them to keep the animal alive and ensure that you get high quality local pork, which I think is pretty cool. They're going to issue about 240,000 of them. Like I said, it takes 900 days. At the end, you get just over 107 kilograms of pork. I don't know. I didn't know Croatia was a pork capital, but
neither did I. This is kind of a nothing burger for me because I don't eat meat, but I grew up on a farm.
Doesn't that make all burgers nothing burgers for you? Okay.
Fuck, we both had some cringe jokes today. It's pretty good. But I mean, there was a big cottage industry when I was a kid around buying quarter beef, half beef, stuff like that. It wasn't. It was a little bit of a different model. I kind of like this as a funding model because this is very similar actually to how you fund new construction builds. You sell a few of them at a discount. You could probably sell some midway through at a much greater price. And keep adding to the orders and the magnitude of what you're doing, but it gives you the cash up front. And that's where, the cottage industry version of this, you have to raise the animals for 900 days first.
Exactly.
And then you need to find a buyer. And you don't know demand, you don't know timelines, people may or may not want to buy at the time that the animals are matured. Anyways, I think this is really great. And this is another one of those applications that I would never have thought of, but is really interesting and highlights, I think, the applicability of blockchain technology and some of these things for real world problems, real world opportunities, beyond just speculation, beyond just number go up, and I've actually seen some really cool projects like similar to this around IRL events and alcohol brands. Again, I also don't drink, so it's kind of lost on me, but we met a group that does this really high-end tequila. And if you have an NFT, which wasn't cheap, you get invited to all of their events globally, and they have a different event almost every week, and they're like highly curated, and you get, I think, a bottle of tequila a month or something, and all this other stuff. Yeah. Anyways, really cool application. I think this highlights the versatility, I think, of the technology and some of the ideas that will come. There was another at the Oasis thing. There was a huge push towards green carbon credits and all of these other types of blockchain-enabled protocols, which I think, again, is not the one killer app that's going to change the world, but I think it starts to highlight, a lot of the applications that really will start to emerge. So super positive for me on this one, although I'll never use it. I just think
it's cool, though.
I think it's great. It's again, it's one of those like meaningfully beneficial to both parties type things. It's a win-win. The farmer wins because they have runway and visibility around demand, and the consumer wins because they get high quality product at a decent price.
Yeah. Honestly, if we had this here, I would do this. Like, I purchase all of my meat that I eat locally or hunted locally and trade for it. I know that you don't eat meat, so this is boring to you, but grocery store meat's not great for you, and it's not great for animals. And if you're going to choose to eat meat, there's an ethical way that you can look at doing that. And I think that supporting a farmer upfront can be really important. I've tried to participate in things that are like meat co-ops, but like I don't want to go milk the goat every weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So nobody wants to actually do the work.
Yeah. So like, I feel like this is a good middle ground, but it also gives them that transparency, which can be really important for government regulation in terms of meat quotas and that kind of stuff from an
No, I think this is great. I have some questions that I don't have answers to on this yet, but we can leave it. I think it's really cool. It would also be cool. It would also be cool if the first tranche didn't have to wait 900 days. Like, I'm sure they have inventory currently if they could sell some for more money, but
if you could get 25 kilograms now and 75 and
or something. Yeah. Like, I think that'd be kind of cool. Just because delayed gratification is like a real deterrent for many people.
Although it says that psychology studies show that it increases your dopamine level when you actually get it, like tenfold as to what you get for each of the short term.
If you've waited forever. Yeah.
If you've waited 9 million years.
I'm so impatient. Like 900 days to me is like the probability of what's going to happen in 900 days is impossible for me. So like, I'm just like, okay, I might not even live here 900 days. Like, what the fuck am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
But
okay. Are you ready? Are you ready for Liberland?
Yes.
I'm going to just give a little bit of background about Liberland. So the Free Republic of Liberland is a sovereign state. They just got sovereignty recently between Croatia and Serbia. It's also just at the very base of Hungary. So technically Croatia wraps up around a little bit, so it doesn't touch Hungary, but it's in that kind of area, in that northern part. It's not taking up any actual ocean waterways, although they do seem to have a river waterway. They have 2 vice presidents and 5 ministers. They also have their own official currency called merit. You can sign up to be an e-settler, and that's how you can earn your original merits, which would then grant you access to go to Liberland and build. You need to, if you want to settle in Liberland, you need to stay for a consecutive 25 days and build a structure. They are really legit, and you know that for sure because all of their government documents are on Notion. So if you want to contribute to Liberland, that's how you can do it. Yep. So that's what Liberland is. Basically.
So this is in the news though, because there was a...
So the other thing that's important to note is that there were 8 years of international diplomatic efforts, and Liberland finally has legally opened a border with Croatia on the 6th of August, and they are now considered an active sovereign settlement. And then almost immediately afterwards, they got invaded.
like they got invaded by Croatia,
yeah.
and the police and forestry workers took a whole bunch of property and a bunch of shit. But technically nobody actually lived there because they needed borders first, I think, before people could habitate the region. So now they get borders, Croatia invades, and they've now realized that they probably have to find a way to protect themselves to have a meaningful settlement. They are really, encouraging, obviously, the use of cryptocurrency and digital assets, and it's an interesting.
We have over 240,000 e-citizens.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way, I think, to. There is a growing portion of society, I think, especially Gen Z and the like, that is in many ways looking like they're becoming more polarized. There's many Gen Z people that are like far progressive, and then there's another kind of category of Gen Z people that are like super conservative, super libertarian.
That's like the rest of us.
That's like the rest of the world. Yeah, but these younger generations, like the people that are libertarians later in life, aren't usually as willing to engage these new innovative, well,
if you're going to go settle somewhere for 25 days and be using crypto, probably that's a newer idea, right? Well, and like you have 25 days that you're able to just go and like be there for. So
as far as I understand, there's no taxes either. So I mean, obviously part of libertarianism is live and let live, right? So I don't need to pay taxes because you're not going to support me, but when I need support, hopefully there's industry to actually do it. So we'll have to see if it evolves, if businesses open there, and how that works. But
so I should say that the reason that they saw invasion, just to be clear, is that it wasn't invasion of the whole entire area of Liberland, which is a whole 7 kilometers squared, I think. But it was a really specific point because there's an island on the west bank of the Danube River. And Croatia says that they still own that island, and Liberland says that they own that island. And so it was just the island that has been contentious, and it's just the island that was invaded.
Invaded? Oh, shit. I thought it was the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, what do you expect? Like, I guess Croatia is going to try to flex their muscle a little bit. Anyways, this whole story is kind of a good it's a bit of a feel-good story for me because it's like cool. Again, I like to see this kind of thing. I joke all the time that I'm going to start my own country. And these guys actually
these people did it, and they're going to build a hotel and a park.
Yeah, and a kids something for kids. Yeah,
amenities. I don't know how they're going to do that as a government.
But they're going to do adventure tours. Yeah. There must be some fun shit to do there. Who knows? Anyways, all right. Well, we are at the time for today. So quick reminder, we're a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Quick shout out to Chainlink. Long sleeve shirt, nice. not my normal. Makes me look a lot more professional when you can't see artwork all over my body. So shout out to Chainlink, good friends of ours, worked with them for years. And obviously, if you're in the space at all, you know who Chainlink is. So it's awesome. We'll be back tomorrow with FU Friday, one of my favorite days.
What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. We probably have lots of people to say FU too, because there's never a shortage. But yeah, hopefully you guys all have a great rest of your day. It's Thursday, so one more day and it's weekend. And with that, I say to you, Kiara, go FUD yourself.